So I wanted to tell you that I love you very much, and I don't want anybody to ever tell you any differently. I always have, and I always will, and you have been an awesome role model for my kids and me, and you are amazing. I wanted to see if you would indulge me in taking a little trip down memory lane. So, hope you will. Hope you enjoy it. So one of the things that I want to say is one of my most favorite memories that I still to this day hold dear to my heart that helped me get through even some tough times when I needed to think about something different is your mother's ring, the real one. I used to beg you to tell me all the stories about it. They always were so fun and distinct and different and a little bit about each of us. And I would point to a stone and you would tell me a story, and I would point to another stone and you would tell me a story from you knew the state I was conceived in, and you were water skiing when you found out you were pregnant, or after you water skied before you found out you were pregnant, and Mr. Belt was worried about that harming me, and I was born with a head full of hair, and I always wanted to do things faster, and so I didn't crawl. I started walking, and y'all had to make me crawl, and Michael kicked out your appendix, and I would point to another stone, and you would tell me how you felt with Ronnie and Lynn being Daddy's kids first, and what you thought, and their stories, and that ring is so special. That ring has such a big, huge part of my heart. I cannot even begin to tell you. It's just like one of those things that really connected us wherever we were. I felt like if I was annoying or fidgeting or something and you needed to calm me down, you would hand it to me and I would put it on and point to a stone and put it on, and you would tell me all the stories, and that's such a really special thing. The next thing is going to make you laugh, because when you were an Avon lady, I loved to play with your lipstick. I thought that little blue box with the lipstick in it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm not even sure that I put the lipstick on, but I know I opened and shut the lipsticks a million times. I don't know if there were any lipstick left to show people. But I loved that lipstick. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and that was so much fun to play with, and you never told me no. The second part of the Avon thing is there all those cool bottles that they had, and I'm sure Daddy was like, oh Lord, she's buying some more cologne. But we used to love those bottles. They were the best thing ever. They were different. They were something to play with. I didn't even mind dusting them, which now I think, oh my God, they probably were the most dust catching things ever. When I clean my house, I think about that. But we used to take your little bag and we used to play dress up and pretend we were Avon ladies, and you used to laugh and think it was the funniest thing ever. And those perfume, little bottles of perfume, the fake perfume or the tester tubes or whatever, I'm quite sure that our house or me or both probably smelt crazy like perfume. But those bottles were awesome, and we all used to take them out of the windowsills. You used to have them on the windowsills and the dresser and the nightstands and in different places, and we would take them out and line them up and play with them forever. And I would play with them alone. I don't know why I found that so fascinating. Another memory is we used to go down the railroad tracks and pick the blueberries or blackberries. I'm still not sure. But we used to do that all the time, and you never told us not to do it. I don't recall that we ever cooked anything with it, but I'm quite sure we ate a lot, and I know that I got stung by a yellow jacket. That memory is very vivid, but I know that I ruined and lost some of your Tupperware stuff in the woods, so on the railroad tracks. So I'm sorry for that now. But it was funny. Do you remember the little red wagon? And riding around in the little red wagon, and I know that a couple times we had some like really not so great accidents, but it was so much fun. We used to do it even in the rain, and we used to take the umbrella out in the rain and get all muddy and dirty. And it's funny now that sometimes when I see kids doing that, I think it's so hilarious. But do you remember like even that weird guy who, now that I think about it, oh my God, we probably almost got kidnapped one time? With the dude in the car that stopped to ask for directions, and when we realized, oh my God, this is a pervert person, and we all take off running, that just nowadays is crazy to me. And then this is going to be a funny story for you. So yeah, it's beans and cornbread, but it's beans and cornbread because that's one of my favorite meals still to this day. Not liver and onions, but beans and cornbread. And you know why not liver and onions, because it may smell good, but it tasted horrible. But beans and cornbread, still one of my very favorite meals. But the funniest thing about that is I realized my kids were spoiled when Adam was probably in second grade and Kenny was gone on a business trip, and I made beans and cornbread because that's just what I wanted. And Adam asked me if we were poor, and he went and got his piggy bank and offered to buy some meat, some lunch meat to make sandwiches. So beans and cornbread is always something that sticks out. And then I have a scar from my elbows being on the table. I remember the fork. I remember the fork coming at me, and I don't longer put my elbows on the table ever. I can't think when the last time I ever put my elbows on the table. So, lesson learned, Mom. Points to you. Do you remember that Kathy and I used to tell you that there were ghosts down the railroad tracks? We still talk about that. I have no idea where that came from, but I remember that every now and then you would walk us to the railroad tracks and look down and assure us there were no ghosts down there and we could go in and go to the park. It's crazy to think about now that people probably wouldn't let their kids walk down the railroad tracks to go to the park, and that was something we did on the daily. So it was so much fun, but we were so weird for thinking that. I don't know why we thought that. There had to have been a reason. I remember that when I started babysitting, my first babysitting job with Davy, Jess, and Sky, I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I did, but I had no idea. But you were the best role model. I would bring the kids down to you, and you wouldn't just take over and do stuff for me. You would tell me what needed to be done, and you would watch and make sure I did it correctly. And that included making sure how they ate, making sure if they were fussy. You didn't ever take over. You didn't ever barge in. You made sure that I knew what I was doing and made sure that I did it because it was quote unquote my job. And I love you forever for that because it taught me a lot. Do you remember when we used to watch scary movies and you told me and Kathy not to watch Halloween? And we begged you and you said, okay, we could stay over at the house and watch it. And we ended up in the chair with you. Kathy and I still talk about that every Halloween. It's one of the funniest memories that we have between that and her dad's memory of me and that damn sucker in my mouth. I think those are the two funniest things that ever happened. We ended up in the chair with you and almost turned it over because we were scared and you were telling us that you told us so. Remember how you always used to whistle and everybody knew your whistle and it was so loud you could hear it all over the neighborhood, even down to the park or the flats? I remember to this day, somebody reminded me the other day that I could be inside somebody's house and someone else would hear your whistle and they would come and find me and tell me it was time to go home because you were whistling. So everybody knew that whistle. To this day, people can describe that whistle, and it's just hilarious to think about that people describe that whistle to this day. Remember when you had the paper route? I probably told you I hated it. I probably fussed a million times. I probably told you it was disgusting and that I hated having newspaper ink on my hands. But I think it was a way for us to spend time together. I think at that point I was maybe the up the butt child. I don't know. But I always will treasure that memory because for some reason it seemed like it gave us time to be together, time to do something different, time to talk about different things, time to talk about school. And you also took the time to show me the business side of it, like what it meant to collect from people, what it meant to keep records of things properly. You and Dad were never shy about showing us the business side of anything, and for that I'm extremely grateful. Remember the quarter? I remember the quarter. Asked you for a quarter and let you know that I needed it for a poster that I wanted, and I was probably the only kid that had a million posters all over my room, and you just started crying. You dissolved into tears and started freaking out, and I thought, oh God, I'm about to get my ass whooped when Dad gets home. I have no idea what I just did. And I called grandmother, and she schooled me on what it meant to be a woman and got everything taken care of and was so calm about it. And I'll never forget that because it's just a hilarious memory to me. And you know what? My kids still even talk about it, which is funny. And one thing you might not know is that I had a test for guys that I went out with. If they weren't comfortable with you giving them a big, huge hug and you telling them to take care of your daughter and you giving them another hug when you just met them and they were turned off by the stern look that Dad was always sure to give, I didn't need to go out with them anymore, because if they weren't going to accept my parents and they weren't going to accept how you were and how Dad was, then I didn't need to waste my time. That was kind of my barometer for setting out who I wanted to be with, even in high school. So I just don't know that I ever told you that. But leads me to the carport picture here. Do you remember flicking the lights off and on? Kenny and I still laugh about it to this day. Whenever you thought that it was improper for me to continue to be outside, that you would flick the lights off and on. And that was something to signal me to get my ass in the house, or you were going to walk outside. I don't recall that you ever walked outside. Maybe once or twice. Kenny thinks you walked up to the door one time to say hi to Kim, but I don't really remember. But I just remember the lights flicking off and on. And that was also another test, because if a guy got freaked out about that, I certainly didn't need that high maintenance of a person. And I'm going to blame you for my organizational stuff and why I keep lists and stuff, because I remember, and this picture pointed it out to me, and there were several other that I had, that whenever we got together for a holiday or anything else, that we would always, you would always like take the presents and arrange them in a certain order, and you had a routine about when the food was served and where it was put and who was sitting where. So I blame you for my list, and I blame you for my spreadsheets, and I blame you for my organization habits, because if I drive people crazy with that, I learned that from you, and I'm just going to tell you that. And then lastly, I wanted you to know that I always admired the relationship that you and Daddy had, and I always wanted that, and I'm lucky and blessed that I had that. The most funny thing that I ever had was watching you and Dad, like when he was cooking or you were cooking, and y'all would mess with each other and like pick at each other and everything, and then I would like laugh about it and think it was funny, but the way that you always looked at each other was just real special to me, and I wanted that in a relationship. And I'm lucky enough to say that I think I have been married long enough to know that I have that, and that he has a lot of qualities that I'm sure Daddy would have really liked, and I know that made Daddy happy when we got married. He told me that quite often. But I'm very blessed and very lucky. It's been weird not having kids at home. That was a change and different, but our relationship is really cool and really strong, and you guys were a role model for that. So I hope you enjoyed our trip down memory lane as much as I did. I hope you understand how special certain things were, and how my memories are really vivid of certain things. Mom, I love you, and I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to know that I don't want you to suffer, and I know that you're tired, and I would love to tell you to hang in there forever, but I want you to do what you need to do, and I want you to know that everybody's going to be okay. And if you hang around for another year, we're all still going to be here for you, and we're all still going to be okay. And if that's not possible, then don't suffer anymore. But know that we all love you more than you can even imagine. And I'm grateful for everything that you taught me, and I'm grateful for everything that you are, and I'm grateful for having you as my mom. I love you.